Okie dokie, guys. So today we are going to look at improper installations and the way some current construction companies are managing things very, very not right. They're not professional. They're quick get her done. Their workers, wow, they are given pre-cut stuff to just get her done. So we're going to look at a big no-no that I figured these people would understand you are to never do. I trusted them. And we're going to look at a kind of a brainless thing that was done that it's got to be redone. This is unacceptable. So I had some windows installed. I needed a new garage window. It was a 2-for-1 special with this company. And my garage window is rotted out. And so I got my 2 big windows replaced, which I'll show you they're considered an acceptable job in a second. But we're going to look at the garage and just how bad this one is, because this is probably the worst. So you will see here, can't really see it too much because of the sun, but you'll see this base plate here. And you can see the water damage here. Okay, this darkening, when you see this kind of stuff, the darkening and the lightening, yeah, that's water damage. You can see it's a little bit crumbly at the top and splintering here a little bit. But yeah, and you'll see some splitting. See, that's the water wicking through, and it splits your wood. It gets dark. That's a decent split, especially around your eyes of your wood. Definitely a very porous area where splitting is going to be the most common. So when you're examining lumber, be sure you get as little branch. I forget. I know there's a name for that, but it skips my mind. But be sure there's as little of these. See, the branch comes out from here, so be sure there's as few eyes in your lumber as possible, because that is extremely porous. And so you can see all the water damage here. It's kind of crumbly. And so here's the new window. And we're going to take a look at this side for water damage. Now, this side's a little bit better because there isn't, again, there's not that area where branches used to be. So you can see how the wood has stayed the integrity is a little bit better because of that. But look at this rot. It's really, really degraded and starting to come apart. But these are nailed in, of course. So now it comes to the foam-in. Now, if you look at this gap and the size of this 2x4, right? We're going to look at that and look at the size of the gap compared to a 2x4 and the window, okay? This gap is just about the same size as a 2x4. And that is a huge gap, right? And we come over here and we have about the same thing. It's a huge gap there. Now here's the really ugly part. We're going to go around to the outside and show you what is absolutely 100% not okay, and pretty much everybody knows. So yeah. And here's the outside. And you'll see that they measured the windows wrong. They measured all my windows wrong, but they put them in anyway. So you're going to look at this caulk gap here. Hard to see with the sunlight, but this is all caulk. This is all caulked in. That is a lot of caulk. And it's not cured. It can't be cured because it's too much, right? Yeah. And sloppy job. There's your line of too much caulk that is still gooey and uncured. This gets a lot of radiation, which will soften your caulk and make it gooey, right? You can see all the dirt sticking to it, but look at that. There's your rot that I was talking about. And we're going to go along the sill and you're going to look at how rotted out that is and the size of the gaps on either side of the rot. So pay attention as we go along. And there's another goopy gap. This isn't even flush, is it? It's not even flush. And look at this job. And you'll see, here's the rotted wood. It's all splitting, right? Yeah, it's all splitting. That's water damage. This is rotted out. And here's where the wood used to be. There used to be the two pieces of wood, right? This is a piece of rotted out wood. So this entire hole along here is nothing. And you can see the mold beginning to grow because the silicone made a somewhat layer, but because it's rotted, the silicone can't stick and it just comes right off and your water goes underneath your caulk. And look at that mold. No, everybody knows you cannot do this. You can't do this, ladies and gentlemen. Look at that. Look at that ridiculousness. And you'll see here how it's even pulling away from the plastic. No. So, if you look at the two pieces of wood that were here, and see that rot, where the rotten piece is still freaking there when it's not supposed to be. Now, mind you, this has only been here since 2021. This has only been through 2 seasons exposed. Yeah. And let's look at the top of the window, and you'll notice how it's bowing toward the window. There's that sag, right? You don't want to see that. Well, that is because the bottom isn't even actually supported, because this is still rotting and collapsing. So the only thing actually holding this window in is caulk and foam. No, you can't do that. Duh. Right? Okay, so I am going to go back inside and show you another thing they did that is a hello. So like I said, I trusted them to know that you never, ever, ever, ever install or do anything when wood is rotted. You must replace rotted wood, right? You have to. It is a requirement. Okay, and you saw why. It falls apart. Yeah. That's a no-brainer, right, you guys? No-brainer. But I trusted them to know that they needed to remove this whole thing. They needed to remove it and get rid of it and do a complete rebuild, right? And so what they needed to do, because this one is rotted out, right? You need to pull this out. You need to pull this stuff out. But you can see here they just slappily cut it. And it's all splintered and crooked and gappy. And they just left it when it was supposed to be replaced. And instead of replacing it, they went ahead and look at that. They cut out a healthy stud. There's no water damage up here. That stud that went across the top was not rotted out. It was in perfectly good shape. It did not need to be removed. And you can see here where they cut it crooked and splintered it and all that stuff. Do you think that's going to support anything now? No, it is sitting on foam. It is not even nailed to the wall. It's just sitting there. Right, these bottom ones, the original, they're nailed in, but this is not. I don't see any nails. And you can see, look at the gap there. Look at that huge gap where there is literally nothing. Remember, we looked on the outside, all that caulk. So all that is there On the outside, there's no wood. That entire gap is nothing but foam and caulk. Raw, uncured caulk, because it's too much and it will never cure. And again, you come to here and there's that gap. So I don't think I have to tell you what needed to be done here, right? You leave this top unrotted stud alone, right? It was fine. And you pull out the rotted one and put the good wood on the bottom. And you fit it tight and snug. And then with this gap here, you cut wood. You get yourself a 1x1. You slide another 2x4 in there. It's called a complete tear out. Come on, people. This is inexcusable work. You think this foam is giving enough pressure to actually stay in place and frame this window in? No, the window is sagging because the whole front's rotted out. So this board here, there's probably only 1/3 of a board there. This is probably completely rotted out to about here, right? Kind of look like that on the outside. So these windows have to be completely redone. I did call the company and tell them I wasn't happy with it over and over again. And they did nothing. They admitted to lying to me too. So the reason they got my contract from my preferred company is I asked them, do you do aluminum casing around windows? Because I have siding, metal siding, and I want and do need to put the aluminum casing around the trim of the window that fits beautifully in with the original siding. It's an aluminum siding. It's not hard to do. And they told me that they did do that kind of work, so I hired them. So let's take a look at what they did do and did not do that they said they did.